At Valha Deus, whispers rise with the fog and never fall silent. A cold mist, thick and unyielding, wound like pale fingers through the knotted branches, curling beneath a cracked, rusted gate that groaned beneath the weight of years. Dusk bled slow and heavy, folding the landscape into a sorrow so dense it pressed against my ribs like a leaden shroud. The farm stretched before me, skeletal, once my grandfather's realm, now nothing more than a graveyard strangled by vines that writhed like dark veins, choking ancient stone until it rotted into dust beneath a weeping gray sky. The air was a viscous stew of damp earth, decaying hay, and something coppery, a faint iron tang lingering on my tongue, as if the soil itself exhaled lost blood, grief seeping from every cracked root and crumbling wall. Around me, the village rustled in hushed dread, their faces retreating into shadowed doorways, as if swallowed by the earth's slow swallowing. I was tethered here, by blood, by whispered bargains of the past, but the farm's breath was cold and laced with quiet menace. Stepping through the threshold, a suffocating silence closed in, vast and hollow, broken only by a low moan that shivered through the overgrowth like a dying wind trapped in gnarled timber. Is it the wind or something worse? I breathed, my gaze snagging on the gaunt shapes limping through the pasture, cattle skeletons draped in ragged skin, grotesque shadows with eyes that gleamed like wet coals, alive with a dark, accusing intelligence. The old stories surged up in a flood, tales of a cursed herd, land weighed down by a supernatural hunger that burrowed into marrow and earth alike. Villagers' voices cracked in fear, telling of a presence that gnawed beneath the surface, feasting on the slow collapse of tradition, on despair so thick it stained the air. Night fell with a sudden crush, the farm's breath turning sour and close, pressing icy fingers through the crumbling walls of the house. Candlelight flickered, casting serpentine shadows that writhed just beyond reach, like hands stretching through the thin veil of light. Then, a rattling shriek tore through the silence, dragging me outside in the clammy darkness. The herd bellowed, low, mournful cries, heavy with something unnatural, their breath swirling into the fog in swirling, ghostly spirals that pierced the numbing cold. "They're not right," I murmured, clutching the lantern whose rough glass bit into my palm despite the chill, each flicker of flame twisting into grotesque shapes among the swirling mist. Days melted into one another, cold and relentless, their edges blurred by creeping suspicion. Villagers' eyes slipped away before mine, their whispers weaving around me like serrated wire. The cursed air they breathed, lonely words that coiled tight, squeezing hope from my chest. One afternoon shattered the brittle quiet. A scream, raw and ragged, carved through the fog like a blade, splitting the world open. The herd fled, scattering in a storm of sinew and bone, save for one beast, black as pitch, crippled and grotesque, its cracked hide mottled like burnt leather, eyes burning with unnatural flames that seared through flesh to brand me with ancient fury and grief. The unease burrowed deep beneath my skin, gnawing with cold teeth. Between restless dreams, hoarse, fragmented voices clawed from shadowed places, dredging my name from the depths. My mind splintered under the weight. Visions tangled with memory, my grandfather's desperate prayers muttered into a void, the trembling lips of village women whispering bargains half forgotten, curses wrought from fear and blood. The curse was no mere myth. It had marked me, a web woven into my thoughts, fraying the fragile border between waking and nightmare. Am I unraveling, or is this curse real? I asked the bruised dawn, its pale light smeared across hollow eyes. Drawn once more to the pasture's edge, I entered a fog that was alive, a thick, suffocating beast swallowing sound and light hall. All was muted except the herd, clustered in mournful silence, their ember eyes flickering through the haze, surreal and twisted, bodies swaying with a rhythm too human, too desperate to be natural. Ghostly contours sharpened as a figure emerged, a silhouette scorched into memory, my grandfather's face hollowed and burning with silent warning. His voice cracked the silence like shattered ice. "Leave, before it devours you," he rasped. "The land feeds only on those who bind themselves to it." Panic ignited beneath my skin, icy and consuming. The bitterness of village suspicion lessened beside the absolute cold grip of the curse, curling tight like steel around my soul. I fled, a desperate, blind scramble down jagged stone paths slick with moss and rot, the fog a shroud that clung stubbornly, stitching whispered prayers and dying laments into my skin. Behind me, a low, mournful chant rose from the farm, an eternal dirge woven from shadows unborn and never ceasing. The world dissolved beyond the veil into silence and mist, the jagged edges of the past bleeding slowly, relentlessly into the fragile present. I escaped Valha Deus, but the curse, like a dark pulse woven into the wind, followed, stitched into the marrow of my bones, a shadow that lengthened deep into my mind's eye. Salvation flickered beyond reach, a distant flame flickering in a room never meant to be entered, and I am left bound to the land, broken, haunted, and forever a part of the forgotten herd. The truth dissolves here, like mist curling through cracked earth, elusive, chilling, eternal. Dare to wander Valha Deus in your mind's eye. What whispers stir in your own forgotten shadows?